Hello, welcome to this Eyes of Harmony podcast. On this channel, we talk everything classic, new, and upcoming Doctor Who. And this week, the major thing, not that I collect them, or you collect them, Conrad, but Doctor Who Season 24, the best series, is being released in the Blu-ray box set. An interesting choice. I get why they kind of did it now, because you kind of don't want to save the more questionable seasons towards the end of a run. You kind of want to end on the highs, you know, what everyone wants. But yeah, it looks, I mean, in some ways I wish I had collected these box sets, because I really do love the artwork, and they're really pretty, and they'd fit together so nicely and take up less space, you know, just all the nice things that you kind of want. But the issue is with the limited edition run, it's like I can't even go back and get them. Like the first Tom Baker one is like 250 on eBay or more now.
Well, I think there was a revision of it where like they shrunk the whole thing down and made it less limited edition. So that one's actually easier to pick up.
Oh, when it's just like the Blu-ray casing, yeah, like the classic normal.
Yeah, if you just want them on Blu-ray, you can get them on Bluray.
Nah, if I wanted to get them, I'd get the the book thing, because it's just gorgeous and like affordable stuff. But yeah, it just sadly doesn't warrant it. If I was growing up now and like these were coming out, I'd get them. You know, that's how I'd get my Doctor Who.
Oh yeah.
But alas, I spent tons of money on the DVDs. But yeah. So season 24 is obviously the one which contains Time in the Rani, Paradise Towers, Delta and the Bannerman, and Dragonfire. Which are four very different, strange episodes. This was kind of before they really knew what they wanted to do with the Sylvester McCoy era. So it's kind of like, it's in its own bubble, really. Pink bubble of death. But there's not too much to really talk about the box set itself, but what I do want to talk about is how good Sylvester McCoy still looks in the costume in the reveal trailer. Like, goddamn, like, he could come back for a multi-Doctor story, and like no one would bat an eyelid. Like I think they could generally bring him back, give the same excuse that they did for Peter Davison of slightly the time converging, causing some slight fading, and he'd be fantastic. I think they could really do it. And if they needed any quick movements, just a body double, and he just does the close-ups, and
Now, I said this after I saw him in The Hobbit, because in that he's just in terms of how he looks, facial. Well, of course he's covered in like all sorts of things, being
beard and
weird lizard, but
bird poo.
Like he does not look that much like he hasn't aged that badly at all, like
not at all.
So yeah, as you said, he could step right back into it, and from this like little trailer that we got, he's still got the energy to do it.
Oh, he's a top class actor, one of the best, and I would love to see him and to bring back Ace. They did Sophie Aldred wrote the book, didn't she? A Childhood's Past or something. I can't remember what it's called. Childhood's End. That's it. And I might get that actually after I finish Doctor Who and the Cave Monsters, because I'd be really interested to see that. I think it would be really a great read. But I'd love them to kind of look into that within the episode, like Ace and the Seventh Doctor. Like Ace could still be the age that she is now, and she didn't leave the Doctor for that long. Like, and this is just before he regenerates and he goes off and to collect the Master's ashes or something. That would be a really great way to end that a multi-Doctor story, actually.
The only thing is that would I guess the canon of whether or not Big Finish is canon or not has kind of gone back and forth over many years. But I mean, if he had them like that later on with Ace, although I do think Ace kind of came and went at different periods, so
possibly.
I don't know. I don't know.
But yeah,
I'm not well versed enough in the Sylvester McCoy's
honestly
stories. In
Sylvester McCoy and Paul McGann could definitely still come back now, and it would still work. And I kind of wish they would just do one live action full episode with a classic Doctor. I feel like we got Time Crash, which was a fantastic 8 minutes. but it's just 8 minutes, you know. Like, I just want a
Mm.
little more, and I don't want
Yeah.
recasts because I know, like, having uh, David Bradley as the first Doctor. He's fantastic. He was really great as the first Doctor. Like, you couldn't ask for a better recasting. But like, why not use the actual actors while they're still here? Like, we still haven't
Yeah.
done a full-on episode with a classic Doctor. Like, please, it doesn't need to be an anniversary special. Like, it doesn't have to be. I mean, Twice Upon a Time wasn't an anniversary special. We got a multi-Doctor story. Like, it doesn't need to be. And it would be great. I feel like it'd be a really interesting parallel between the two as well, because Sylvester McCoy is pretty much the only Doctor you didn't get a multi-Doctor story either.
No.
We never saw him on screen with another Doctor, unless you count Dimensions in Time, which doesn't really count. So,
Yeah. I mean, Tom Baker never really got that either.
yeah, I guess so. That's true. But Tom Baker, sadly, he's just too odd now to
Well, yeah.
pull it off. While Sylvester
Well,
McCoy,
you know, unless they kind of do, I mean, spoilers to The Mandalorian here. Unless they go the route which they do with Luke Skywalker in that, where they get like somebody to fill in with the body, you have the face replacement, and then get the original actors to provide kind of the voice and maybe the basic moat. Like,
yeah,
I don't know the exact process. I think, yeah, but basically Mark Hamill provided the voice of Luke, and I think they kind of copied his motions for it. Or
they probably
something like
traced
that.
his face when he said lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
So I mean,
Doctor
they
Who
could go
doesn't
that
have that
route with
budget.
it,
That's the
although,
issue.
Yeah, the BBC, yeah,
The budget's
I
not
mean-
there for that. But there's the curator. They brought him back in. Oh yeah, he was the creator, so he has kind of had a multi-Doctor
I mean,
story.
true.
So Sylvester McCoy and Paul McGann need to have a multi-Doctor story. It's not fair.
On screen.
On
As they
screen,
do.
yeah, of course, yeah, on screen. Because god damn it, it's not fair. The Seventh Doctor has rights too, and he's got spoons, to play. So yeah, he just looks fantastic. I thought the whole like these announcement videos for these box sets are insane. Like the amount of effort that goes into them. They got Pete McTee or something to direct it. Like he did like Kablam and stuff. I'm pretty sure,
Yeah.
And like I just loved that it was 24 karat. Like she made her whole like galaxy business off of carrot juice. It was just so great. And the graphics were fantastic. I was like, what the
Yeah, better than the entire Dalek show.
Better than Daleks! Exclamation mark. But like they were as good as like in episode Doctor Who. Like, and I thought the shot with the TARDIS flying off at the end was just beautiful. It was just it was sick. Loved it. But yeah, this kind of, I guess, brings us on to the Russell T thing, because I feel like, talking about multi-Doctor stories and having spin-offs and everything, Okay, well, it's kind of like, in like the DC EU at the moment, they're going to have multiple Batmans at once, they're going to have Batflick and they're going to have, Keaton and Robert Pattinson. So all of
we'll see.
All of these guys kind of at the same time, isn't it? And I mean, potentially they're doing it with Spider-Man as well. With the rumored Spider-Verse with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield.
Well, that might just be for one film.
Yeah,
to be fair.
But what I'm saying is like, people can accept now like multiple actors at the same time playing the same character. How would you feel if they did like Doctor Who stuff like that?
What, where you'd have like multiple Doctors or like multiple shows?
Multiple shows, maybe even like, in a spin-off show, an old Doctor would show up rather than the current Doctor.
Oh, sorry.
So say like Sarah Jane Adventures, instead of having the 10th Doctor show up, they actually had, Sylvester McCoy show up instead in the episode. Like you were expecting David Tennant and in pops Sylvester McCoy instead. Like, like I feel like that would be really interesting in some ways. Like you do Torchwood and Paul McGann's Doctor shows up. Like you don't, because Doctor Who's so linear, and I get like this is the issue. Like with a time travel show, like sometimes it should be a bit random, Like if I was planning like the big 100th series or the big, Doctor Who 100 years, what I'd prefer to do is I do a season and each episode is like a different Doctor, but it's all kind of connects into this one big story, and then the finale would be the kind of all the Doctors converging. Obviously, you could only get kind of the recent-ish Doctors at that point. So, in like, 30 years' time, you could probably go back like 5 and so what, but, recasting and whatever, and this is the point of acting. It's you're pretending to be someone, so you got to just pretend to be someone pretending to be someone. That's just the role. That's the job. That's what you're paid to do. And I mean, like, Doctor Who is not shied away from recasting, so I don't think people would complain too much. I think like
well, it depends on, I guess, how recent, like, because Big Finish recently had somebody now doing the voice of the War Doctor for Big Finish, and like he sounds perfect. Like the guy they got to do it is like 1-to-1. Like if you didn't already know that John Hurt passed and everything, you might have just thought it was like something of his. But some people, on like Twitter and such, were like, so some people are kind of a bit like, oh, it's too soon. It's too soon. It's.
I think you'll always get those people, though. I think there's like that's the thing. Any decision you make, some people will like it, some people won't. It's just like.
And for me, like they got the permission of his family, John Hurt's family, in order to do this. So it wasn't like it was. We're just gonna do it, and who cares what anyone thinks?
Yeah. So because Russell T was saying, Doctor Who should have all these spin-offs, which I agree. I think
the Nyssa Adventures, he said specifically.
Yeah, the Nyssa Adventures. Like. I completely agree. I feel like in this like day and age, I can't believe like this is the thing. Like Doctor Who was this universe. You had Torchwood and you had Sarah Jane. It was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And then they just all died. They all died, and it's just very.
It's too much Doctor Who.
Yeah,
we can't have that.
See, that's
Take
like
Doctor Confidential off.
Yeah.
Torchwood, who needs it?
And this is the thing. It's like it's proven time and time again that these shared universes work. Like this is how you make the money. Like I'm pretty sure merchandise of Doctor Who probably was doing its best when there was Torchwood, Sarah Jane, and Doctor Who on in a year. That's probably when it was all doing the best. What would you want then if they were like doing spin-off series? Who would you choose from like series that have already existed? What would you want?
Ooh.
And what would you have like happen in them?
That's tricky because there is actually just so many.
See, when I
think about it, like, because like a lot of the ones which I think of, like, then you could point to and go, well, there's already in like most of these cases, like, oh, there's already like a Big Finish series about this already. So like I was thinking like Unit with Kate Stewart, but Big Finish has kind of already done it. Not that you couldn't do it again. I think that'd be like a cool like on-screen series to do.
I think Unit would be a sick series.
Like
I feel like the one bit I loved in Zygon Inversion was when Kate Stewart went to the what was it? What was the town called? Like Hope or something? I can't remember what it was called. Yeah, a town called Hope or something. Yeah, and that was it. And like she was there on her own, and you kind of felt a lot more pressure there because obviously like. She's just a human, she's not the Doctor, and she doesn't even have the Doctor nearby watching out for them. And I feel like a Unit series would be really sick. And you could even set it in like the 70s. You wouldn't have to set it in modern day. Like you could set it in the like right after the Doctor left.
If it was Kate Stewart, then
if you did Kate Stewart, but I just mean like you could just do a completely new Unit series, like set in the 90s, like the wilderness years, where the Doctor just doesn't show up at all. And, like, how does Unit cope in that period where the Doctor just never showed up?
But then you'd probably have to try and have the Brigadier in there somewhere.
Well, he was retired at that point.
Time frame.
At Battlefield, he's retired. So you just have a different bit. And then you could even have the introduction of a young Kate Stewart at that point, just joining Unit for the first time. But, like, it would be very interesting because you could have... Because that could also tie into like the series, like maybe in the Doctor Who series, you have the Doctor then land in the 90s, and it's like, where have you been the whole, the whole decade? Where have you been? We've needed you, You know, and the Doctor would have no excuse. Like, this is the thing. Like, the Doctor can't always be there for every single invasion that's ever happened. Like, UNIT has to have sometimes stood on its own two legs, you know, and not just, you know. I always thought the Paternoster gang should have had their own spin-off. It was so set up that, you know, these guys solve crimes, and like then they just didn't do anything. I wonder if maybe it was pitched and they decided not to go with it.
Probably.
Do you think?
I mean, to be fair, I'm not personally, like they set it up as such. I'm not so keen on that idea in particular, but you know,
I thought they were setting it up
makes sense
for like the CBBC, like, you know, to replace Sarah Jane. I thought that's where they would have gone with it. You know, because I feel like, you know, Strax being the comic relief, and like it was really set up to be a kind of quite good kids show. I think you could have made it pretty great, but that's there
we go.
that's a sad one. I wouldn't mind like companion Chronicles as well. You know, like catching up with companions, a bit like Marvel's upcoming What If series. Like, instead you catch up with like companions each episode, and you see kind of what like these trailers are now. Like, what are they up to? Because I would be interested in knowing what like Mel is up to, or what Ace is up to, in Nyssa and Tegan, and like all these, you know, companions. What's Adric up to? Oh wait, he's dead. But yeah, but you know, like
it's just an episode of like it's just like a picture of the meteor just slowly with the smoke rising from it, just for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, credits. But maybe the Doctor should go back and save Adric. It should happen. The Doctor could do it.
No,
but
it shouldn't happen.
Managed it in Paraxis.
Yeah, but if he stopped,
the Doctor clearly hated Adric. You're gonna fuck that guy. But a future Doctor could go save Adric.
Nah, I wouldn't.
It would ruin the episode for sure. Yeah,
I wouldn't want to ruin Earthshock.
Yeah,
just leave it be. Just don't touch that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could do something like that. And of course, you know, companion, like actual, like just full-on companion spin-offs. Like several of them were like rumored throughout years. I mean, like there was this big rumor for a little while, like around series 3, where it was like, well, they're going to get a Rose Tyler spin-off called Rose Tyler, Defender of the Earth.
Yeah,
and he's going to be set on the parallel Earth, and her, you know, solving issues and such. And of course, that never came to be. And I think there was a brief rumor about a Martha spin-off, which never came to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. These things just don't end up materializing.
I think like the issue is just Doctor Who just doesn't have that kind of full creative team. I feel like if you were planning to do that, you'd go into the series planning these spin-offs, being like, right, we're going to have this, and then you get like, you know, as the head writer of Doctor Who, you then hire someone to then like do this series, and then to do this series, you know, like, and really start building towards this shared universe.
I think character popularity should always be like a factor. Like the reason why we actually, you know, we even had stuff like a Sarah J. Well, in fact, kind of 2 Sarah J. spin-offs was because of just how popular the character was, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't. If planned, they don't. You know,
I don't know. I feel like a unit series would work.
Well, unit series is a long, you know, established thing.
Yeah, I meant
so
established
that, of course,
stuff.
Would make sense.
I meant like pre-established. I wouldn't do like, unless like something new popped up in the series that people absolutely love, then yeah. But I would definitely want a kind of unit series. I think would be grand.
Yeah.
I think that would be great.
And actually, I think I briefly mentioned this at Turn Left, but actually, yeah, you mentioned What If we got like a full-on animated series like that as well.
I mean, most of it in Doctor Who, when it's What If, is basically the universe gets destroyed. I mean, like, look at.
But not in every instance.
What was the one with the when Sarah Jane didn't exist? Like, London's just destroyed, isn't it?
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's just what if the Doctor didn't succeed at certain points, or maybe what if the Doctor never showed up at certain points, or if like episodes went differently.
Yeah.
What if the Doctor had decided to put the wires together in Genesis? You know, things like that.
Yeah, that would be interesting, actually. Time Lords. I think like what they should do is like if they did do that. What would you do in an episode if the Doctor actually went back and after the fourth Doctor left the room, the Doctor then goes into the room, touches the wires, and kills the Daleks? What would you do then? Would you like that episode? And like it just shows, because I think like then the Time Lords would become like maniacs. I feel like the Time Lords are on the exact same journey as the Daleks. I don't think they're just...
Well, we saw that with the Time War and what happened kind of there, so they were already on the exact same journey. I mean, I don't think I'd actually want to see that as like an actual canon episode. Like I said, as a what if, that'd be a great scenario. Like if whether or not it's the fourth Doctor that did it, or whether or not actually a future Doctor comes back and touches the wires. But as like an actual canon episode, I think, again, as I mentioned in the episode, I think it's such an iconic episode that I don't think I'd want to ever touch that. I guess in terms of an actual canon, like overriding of what happened. I guess.
Yeah, I think this is the thing with Doctor Who. It's like I feel like sometimes it should be very much just moving forward and not looking back at the past too much. I don't mind like returning monsters, but I wouldn't mind like maybe seeing Ace, like unfinished things. I wouldn't mind revisited, like Ace's leaving, and things that weren't completely tied up with a bow, like the Valiard. I'd like that to be revisited, that whole thing. And I don't mind, villains returning and stuff, but I prefer storylines which aren't either about the Doctor dying, because like Jesus Christ, we had like that 2 seasons in a row at 6 and 7. True. Or like just changing everything that we know about the Doctor, like just move forward.
Like I think things that complement what happens in older episodes are better than stuff that kind of overrides and changes the entire dynamics of it. So I think I said this like a long time ago, which is like, and actually it turned out to actually exist. I got it, and I was severely let down by it. But like, what if, say, in Tomb of the Cybermen, there was another Doctor kind of, while the Doctor was playing with strings and doing stuff in the main bunker of the tomb, there's like another Doctor in a different area of the tomb doing other stuff, which actually affects like the main Doctor in the main tomb. And it turns out again that there was a big finished audio did that exact same thing, where the fourth Doctor's kind of roaming around the tomb and bumps into Jamie briefly and such, without ever seeing the second Doctor or anything. Like, it never contradicts the episode, but it's kind of something that expands on what was in there, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I said, it was kind of a letdown because it's over before you know it, and not an awful lot actually happens. It turns out that it was actually a second part of a story. So I completely lost context going into it, and it's just like, okay, this is happening now.
I see. Okay, so you needed the first part to really get the context of what was happening in this part.
Yeah.
What was that called? That tomb thing?
I don't remember. I could get it out. I got like literally the box here.
Because I was always interested in like see like a Doctor set up the next adventure, like.
Return to Telos is... Oh, it's a bit cracked. Return to Telos is this one.
Okay, nice.
Like I said, it's a really cool idea. It's just I don't really like the execution. So
is it because you just can't do too much? Just kind of just walking around a lot and...
Well, they're not even in the tombs for all that long. Like, it's a 60-minute thing, but I think they're only like actually in the tombs for like maybe even less than 20 minutes of that, and it's like... And they don't do very much. Like, I don't even remember what exactly they do. Something with Jamie.
Is it like
and then
Jamie
loses
the Cybermen? Does he like have to push the Cyberman out like the booby trap so that it happens because it's not happening, or?
I don't think so. I think there's some sort of rocket ship out back or something which is having like an issue, and the Doctor's in the back.
Oh yeah, because the guy goes back to the rocket so that they can leave because they're
like. Well,
it's
not that rocket. It's another rocket. I mean, this is what's kind of disappointing about it, is that it's not. They're sort of there, but it doesn't. Like they're on their own stories. They're not actually really impacting, the actual Tomb of the Cybermen part of it. They're on their own journey that just happens to coincide with Tomb of the Cybermen.
Would you want a story, like a series based on a villain?
Maybe. I mean,
like following like the Cybermen or like the Daleks.
Well, you already got a Dalek series now.
with live action, not animated. Exclamation mark.
Well, I mean, that was Terry Nation's plan for the Daleks, was to have a spin-off with like Sarah Kingdom and other people of that Galactic Police Force, whatever it was, from the Daleks master plan. I don't think like the Daleks show only kind of worked on the fact that it was so short. Like, if we'd have like a long series focused purely on the Daleks, like they're not. I don't see that working. Like, the focus would have to be on somebody else, and that's what they've done for like other things. So, like the Dalek Empire series for Big Finish, for example. Again, I can bring up Big Finish a lot today, but like they focus on a small group of humans who are kind of intertwined in this plot and go their own arcs throughout it, while the Daleks are the big threat, the big menace. The Cybermen show wouldn't really work just because of they have even less personality than the Daleks. And I mean, that coldness works as far as them being an antagonist, but if you're putting them as kind of like any sort of lead, that probably would be a pretty boring show. Gotta say.
What about like a ragtag series, like ragtag group, and then that crosses over into the main show at some point? Like, even if it's like a short, like here's like a 4-episode special series, and then that loops in, but then they go off and then they have the rest of their series. Like, I feel like that kind of thing. It's like that crossover. I feel like that's the main thing. Like, you're building up, you're waiting for it. That's why these Marvel things work, because like, they were slowly crossing over, and then now even in like, Heroes like second films or third films, they're having more crossovers, with like other characters, and like people don't mind. I don't mind, because it wouldn't make sense if Far From Home didn't have Nick Fury. It wouldn't make sense if these guys aren't showing up. It's like in Iron Man 3 when Captain America isn't trying to save the president of the United States, because he totally would, and that's kind of what they kind of realized, that they would show up and they would be involved in other people's battles, because it's just they're heroes. They're not like, I'm gonna sit this one out. This guy's clearly got it covered, so I'm just not gonna do anything. Like, it doesn't work. And I just feel like Doctor Who's such a big universe. There's so much to explore, and it just feels so small at the minute, especially when you have like 10 episodes every season. It's got the material to be such a bigger thing, and it's just currently not. We got all the Big Finish, but just on screen, So I agree with Russell T. There should be some kind of universe. I feel like they were heading towards it, and then it just kind of slowly petered out. But talking about Big Finish, do you want to bring up the last talking point?
Well, it's not really. It's sort of Big Finish related. So I just found this interesting. It probably means nothing, and I'm not familiar enough with the brand in order to know if this is actually any sort of deal. But Big Finish retweeted a Hero Collector article about the Celestial Toymaker, which, as it states in the article, is tying into the actual toys they're making. And I do believe there is, they have their own like magazine and such, which kind of ties into each figure they're releasing. The interesting thing about this, as far as I know, like most of them generally just keep quite specifically to just talking, about the episode's context and a few opinions and such. This one, which, like I said, was retweeted by Big Finish, if that means anything, read to me like very much a defense of the episode, like a sort of like, this episode, is a bit mixed in certain corners, and has like accusations of like racism in it and other issues. And this of course doesn't dispel everything, and mentions about the kind of the hurried development cycle of it, and the use of a racial slur not being definitely not being defended, but like for other things such as actually the way the Toymaker is portrayed, because there were accusations of him being like in yellow face, or that he's wearing like Chinese garbs, but if you see the pictures, he's not in yellow face, and kind of the whole kind of motif of him is that he's kind of supposed to be more of a European colonialist. So that's kind of the whole like thing of him, is that it's supposed to be kind of he's supposed to be kind of like that, I guess. I'm not doing a very good job of explaining it, but like the article did it better. But yeah, the point I was making about it wasn't even so much. It's just the fact that is this defense of the episode, and like if I was looking at this as far as like a general like kind of entertainment media sort of thing, I'd almost read this as if it was like a almost like a paid piece, if they were like as if they were like setting up to actually doing something else with it. So say if they were to do like that as like one of their next animated reconstructions, this would almost be like a pre-play, like, oh, this episode is better than you remember it, and a lot of the things people have said about it not really true, so
it's like setting it up preemptively just so that when they announce it, there's not a like the early kind of maybe backlash could be quickly like, or people go in remembering it for like a positive rather than going in being like, oh, this is a slightly racist episode.
Exactly.
I mean, I think something people need to remember is like it's something of the time of 1965. I think at that point it would have been 65. And while it's not excusable today, it's a piece from that time period where it was considered okay. Not that we know it's okay, not defending racial slur, but it's like it's a time capsule of that time, and I still want to watch it and see what that episode was like, see what television was like that back then. That's what I love about black and white Doctor Who so much. It's just, and what I'm really loving about, well, the first 2 episodes of WandaVision, which were made like, they were filmed in the 60s and 50s, like the first 2 episodes, and absolutely adored them. They were both fantastic episodes. And it's just something I love about, black and white. It's the style of more, it's like a play. It's like going to the theatre. And that I just really, really love. I absolutely adore that, and I really have always wanted to kind of see this episode in its completion. I know we got episode 4, which I've watched, but I'd love to see it as a complete, whole package. I'd love the Celestial Toymaker to somewhat make a return. I feel like he would be really interesting, and I thought that they had a really good idea with, sadly, the never made Nightmare Fair. Which was going to be the 6th Doctor story, which would have been fucking fantastic, I think. But yeah, exactly. They made it as Big Finish. But I'd love him to make like a TV appearance. I feel like he'd be a fantastic, interesting character to. I mean, he must be like one of the Eternals or whatever they were called.
Didn't they outright state that?
I think they did. I think, because they mentioned the Toymaker, I think, in the episode. The Nightmare guy. I think he literally mentioned, he name-dropped the Toymaker, which I think, like, that's the perfect setup. Like, you've brought him into the 21st century now, Doctor Who. Like, he is now, and I think he'd be interesting. I feel like, with modern-day games and, like, paying for upgrades and stuff, I feel like that could be a really interesting, like, thing to bring into it. And, like, people playing like Fortnite and all these people playing video games, like imagine if he's like that, and it's like if you like lose, if you come absolute last place, like you lose your life or something, but people don't know because you just disappear, something like that could be really interesting. Or like if you lose, you come last place, then like you get transported into like the Toymaker's dimension, and then he makes you play games, and if you lose, you get trapped there for an eternity kind of thing. And I feel like that would be really interesting. like an arcade. You know, you go to an arcade, you completely lose, you get like the lowest score, you get like transported and like punished by the Toymaker and he knows you'll lose because you got such an awful score. So it's like he's choosing the weakest, so he always wins, kind of thing.
Yeah,
and I feel like that would be really. I feel like there's just so much potential in that villain. And there's a lot of classic villains. I feel like the Wirren would be great to return. You know, they did the Zygons, thankfully, but you know, there's some other villains I think could really would be fantastic to have a second outing. But it'd be interesting if they are doing the animation. I mean, clearly they're doing Web of Fear, episode 3.
The main reason why I bring up the Big Finish retweet as like a thing is that they, I think, directly have helped contribute to the restoration of the audio for these new releases, so that they are tied into it.
So they would know.
So yeah,
that would be interesting. That's a thing. Maybe this is a thing, or maybe it's absolutely nothing, and we're
maybe it's just the figure.
But yeah, it would be interesting. I think it's definitely gonna happen eventually. Whether it's the next one is like, I think if it is announced as the next one after the Web of Fear, then this was definitely a thing. If it's like 3 years down the line, then it probably wasn't a thing, because like you wouldn't do it this early on,
Exactly. Like I said, this is pure speculation, but it's just something interesting I noted. I thought would be kind of interesting to bring up as a possibility.
For sure. Yeah. I'd love it. I'd love to get it.
I don't know. Yeah. So I don't know Hero Collector enough to know if this is kind of like a common occurrence.
Thing. Yeah.
Like, look, I kind of briefly dabbled, I guess, because I bought like at least one, but it was more like factual. So
yeah,
maybe that's different now. I
don't know. Right, there we go. That wraps it up, I think, for this week. So comment below if you think there should be a Whoniverse. I mean, it's even got a name, doesn't it? The Whoniverse. Like, that's it. It's already there. It's waiting to be done. But yeah, so yeah, comment below. Do you think Sylvester McCoy should return the new series? What do you think about the Celestial Toymaker? ? Maybe being made soon. Who knows? Reading into it too much. And that's it. That's all we got this week. So thank you very much for listening, guys. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.